I think I may be the last, so I won't keep you too long. I know you're all interested in the weather and trying to figure that out, as am I. I've got a 13-year-old that's weathering the storm right now, so I'm going to get out of here pretty quick. But this is the most successful session I've ever been a part of. We were able to put back nearly $1 billion in savings just a year after we had to cut $1.3 billion. Continued our investment in public education, record investments there, another $210 million all in, but also giving kids, regardless of their zip code and their income, the ability to go to the school of their choice was a huge, huge deal. The Equal Opportunity Scholarship Fund is something, or Act is something we've been working on for years out here to try to expand that. Excited to be a part of that. And then we just made the record investments in core services. So this was by far the most successful session I've been a part of. Excited to lead the Senate and excited to take some of your questions.
The Sheila Dill's charter school reform bill didn't get over to the Senate. What happened?
Well, you know, that was a last-minute deal that was sent over to us. It didn't have a Senate author, and it was past the deadlines. It was much like 1237 in that it was rules were suspended, all that type of stuff. And I typically try not to get in the middle of pending litigation. Today, the news of the founders being kicked out of the organization or removed from their positions or contractual just shows there's so many moving parts on that. We very much pushed for and got more transparency around virtual charters, but things were moving too quick to understand exactly what was going to happen there.
The Senate didn't hear SB 2, the transgender sports bill. Any reason why?
You know, again, I haven't seen the problem in Oklahoma. The anecdotal stories that have been told to me have been about club sports, so youth soccer, youth, that's really the only example that's really been brought to me from Oklahoma. And legislation won't have any bearing on those private club sports. I've looked at the OSSAA rules and the NCAA rules. They seem to be adequately protecting sports. You have to have a year of hormone treatment in order to compete at the high school level and at the college level. If you do that, you mitigate your team's ability to compete for a national championship. Obviously, we're concerned, making sure that you do protect female sports, but I just think in Oklahoma, at least right now, it was a solution in search of a problem today.
You said it was a very successful session. There's been feedback that it's also been a very divisive session, took up a lot of divisive bills. What is your response to that? Do you agree with that?
Well, people who are on the losing side of it think it's divisive. People who are on the winning side of it, vast majority of legislators and the vast majority of Oklahomans feel that this was extremely successful. So I think, unless there's a particular issue you want to talk about, the issues that we ran this year were very unifying. Record investments in public education, giving parents more control over their education, getting diversity in our economy, trying to get more people to invest in Oklahoma. It was unifying. Every session has its ups and downs, a roller coaster of emotions and a roller coaster of if you think you're winning or losing depending on the day. But if you look back overall, this has been extremely successful. Something that when we went into this session, I wouldn't have been able to, with a straight face, tell you that I thought we were going to achieve everything that we were able to achieve this session.
Is there anything you didn't get done that you wanted to?
Every session there is, yeah. But, you know, just until we get the complete elimination of abortion, I'm not going to be happy. Until we get J&C reform on how we handle judicial nominations, those type of things. But you don't get everything. I got more than I wanted, more than I expected, and more than anyone thought was possible. Worked extremely well with the governor and the House to work together to achieve these goals.
You had some key staff changes, working with Brian Bingman and his new budget officer. How did that impact your relationship after the last session was kind of difficult?
Yeah, Bingman, former pro tem, get along swimmingly with him, and he did an excellent job. That's not to put down Maisie or Michael Junk before them. They were very hard workers, good friends of mine. The dynamics are different. You know, we're not facing the start of a pandemic. We're not trying to cut $1.3 billion. Just a completely different dynamic, but I love Brian Bingman and have gotten to know Amanda Rodriguez, and they've been really good to work with so far.
Go ahead.
Sean, no, go ahead.
You began the session with a number of pandemic-related protocols in place. We're able to ease those over time. Was there any point during the session where you had members who tested positive for COVID? Not who they were, but were there any? And was there ever a time where you thought we might have to shut this session down too?
There was never, I'll answer your second one first. No, there was never a time that I thought we needed to shut it down. As far as if members tested positive, there was rumors of one testing positive, but I don't remember if that turned out to be true or not. It obviously didn't impact the session.
You mentioned on the floor today, as you were thanking people, someone who had provided testing for members. What sort of testing program did you?
OU Health was up on the 5th floor, and they provided testing for the legislature, executive branch, and our pages. We were requiring testing of our pages coming in each week to make sure that we weren't bringing that on the floor.
What's happening with the chaplaincy program?
That's something we'll evaluate over the interim. We obviously had the issue, and we've started, it was actually really nice seeing the members from both parties get up and lead us in prayer at the beginning of the session, but that was a short-term solution to the issue. We'll, over the interim, look at what the House is doing, what the U.S. Senate and U.S. House do, and our bodies around the country, and make a decision going forward.
And I know that you're not going to say how Senator Dom was disciplined, but did whatever disciplinary actions that were handed down to Senator Dom, did they end at the end of this session, or will they continue?
You know, I'm going to continue to keep those conversations between me and Senator Dom.
I want to ask you real quick about the Cross Village deal down at OU. You may have seen that there's an agreement, a settlement agreement. Regents are about to consider it here in a little bit. Some bondholders are upset. I'll leave it at that. I can give you more details if you need. Thoughts on, I know you care about your alma mater, and I know you care about, fair deals in the state of Oklahoma for business people. Have you heard from any community bankers who are upset, or do you have any thoughts on this situation?
Last year, some of the bondholders came up here with their lobbyist, Brett Robinson, and talked to me, trying to say, the state was going to be on the hook and it was going to hurt our bonding capacity. I found that to not be accurate after I researched it. But yeah, we have those conversations. I haven't had conversations this year. I saw your article. I haven't read it, to be honest with you. But yeah, I will read it, and we can have a great conversation after I read it. But you know more details about it than I do at this point.
So how come you didn't appoint Kay Floyd, Attorney General yesterday?
I did joke with the governor that I asked him if he wanted to have any input on who I selected for Attorney General. But ended up not pulling the trigger on that one.
I have sort of an unusual one. So since John Bennett was elected chairman of the Republican Party, he seems as though he's been very active in trying to get certain legislation passed and in telling you, in a way, how to do your job. How have you felt about that? How's that gone over with you?
Carmen, I think you know me well enough to know that I don't like to be told what to do on different things, so it hasn't been well received. Representative Bennett, when he was in the House of Representatives, he and I were counterparts on the subcommittees that we both chaired, and I worked well with him there. But my reflection on what a party chairman should do and his are diametrically opposed. I think it's not the job to get up here and try to weigh in on policy. I don't think it's the job to try to unseat a sitting U.S. Senator in James Langford with that position. But he got elected. I got elected. I've got a job to do. He feels like his is different. I obviously disagree with him.
Sounds like you're saying you'll stay in your lane if he stays in his.
No, I can't tell him to stay in his lane. I don't think he's had a lot of success out here trying to use the tactics he's tried to use.
The provisions of Senate Bill 1061, the Open Meetings Act, the virtual meetings will expire essentially on June 11th, I believe, eliminating broad-based virtual meetings. you all didn't pass anything to allow that to continue or some other form of it. Is that something you plan to work on?
Well, we did pass it. We passed it out of the Senate. I want to modernize. We didn't pass it all the way to the governor's desk. The House didn't take up the open meetings long-term reform that I wish to have. So back to Barbara's question, that's one of the things left undone. But I deeply believe that we need to modernize the Open Meetings Act. I saw people participate in school board meetings, city council meetings, state government meetings. The Department of Education, I remember looking on there one day, and I'd be making up a number if I said a number, but the viewers were surprising to me how many there were. We must get more public transparency. We must get more involvement. We need to modernize. And you don't want to take away the face-to-face and the personal interaction and having to stand before members of the press like yourselves. But there's a way that we can do things better. When I've talked to various people around the state, one of the things that excites them is the ability to get people from all across Oklahoma to participate in some of these state boards and commissions that are non-compensated, that they don't feel like they have the time to drive up to the city for a couple hours, participate, and then go back home and leave their business, but they would love to participate if they could get on a Zoom link and share the perspective from all corners of the state. So we looked at trying to come up with, if you were elected or if, school board, legislative, those type of things, there would be an exemption. You couldn't participate that way without extreme circumstances. But trying to get more Oklahomans engaged in the process is an overarching goal of mine. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.